Have you ever had that feeling on a Sunday night? You know the one I'm talking about. You look back at the week you just finished, the meetings, the emails, the projects you pushed across the finish line, and instead of feeling satisfied, you just feel heavy. You ask yourself, what did I actually accomplish? And more terrifyingly, does any of it actually matter?
That is the universal 3 o'clock a.m. existential crisis. It's the feeling that we are running on a hamster wheel. We're moving very fast, sweating a lot, but the scenery never changes. It's funny you mention that, because today we are diving into a text that is thousands of years old, yet it reads like it was written by a Silicon Valley CEO going through a massive midlife crisis.
It really does. We're looking at the first 6 chapters of Ecclesiastes, and honestly, the opening is brutal. It doesn't pull any punches. It starts with this famous declaration, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." But in the context of what we read, vanity doesn't mean standing in front of a mirror admiring your hair.
Exactly. The Hebrew word there is hevel, which literally implies vapor or smoke. It's something you can see, but the moment you try to grab it, your hand goes right through it. It's fleeting. The narrator, who identifies himself as a king in Jerusalem, a son of David, is essentially saying, I have looked at everything humans do under the sun, and it's like trying to herd cats. It's chasing after the wind.
That imagery of chasing the wind is so evocative. You can run until your lungs burn, but you will never catch the wind. The text opens with this overwhelming sense of cyclical monotony. The sun rises, the sun sets, the wind blows north, then turns south. Rivers flow into the sea, but the sea never gets full. It feels almost claustrophobic.
It is claustrophobic. It's an attack on the idea of linear progress. We love to think that history is moving upward, that we are inventing new things and becoming better people. But this king says, no, what has been is what will be. There is nothing new under the sun. We think the iPhone is new, but the human desire for distraction, that's ancient. We think our political scandals are new, but the corruption of power, that's eternal. He's arguing that we have a collective amnesia. We forget the past, so we think the present is unique.
So, if the world is just a repetitive cycle, what does a person do? This king decides to run an experiment, and this is where it gets fascinating to me. He has the resources to do what none of us can do. He decides to test every single avenue of human satisfaction to see if anything sticks.
Right, he treats his life like a laboratory. Chapter 2 is basically an unlimited budget experiment in hedonism and achievement. He says, I'm going to try pleasure. He drinks the best wine. He surrounds himself with entertainment, music, and laughter. Then he pivots to productivity. He builds massive houses, plants vineyards, designs complex irrigation systems for forests. He accumulates silver, gold, and livestock.
He even mentions acquiring men singers and women singers, which is the ancient equivalent of having a private Spotify where the artists perform live in your living room. He became greater than anyone before him. But here's the kicker. He says his wisdom remained with him. He wasn't just a drunk partying. He was analyzing the pleasure while he was having it.
That's the curse of the analytical mind. He's experiencing the peak of human success, but a part of his brain is standing in the corner taking notes, asking, is this fulfilling? And the conclusion is devastating. He looks at his empire, the gardens, the gold, the reputation, and he realizes, I have to die.
That part hit me hard. It's the great equalizer. He realizes that the wise man and the fool both end up in the same place, the grave. And then he gets really honest about legacy. I think this resonates with anyone building a business or a career today. He says he started to hate life because he realized he has to leave all his hard work to the guy coming after him.
And he has no idea if that successor is going to be a genius or an idiot. Imagine spending 40 years building a company, sacrificing your sleep and your health, only to hand the keys over to someone who might bankrupt it in 6 months because they're incompetent. The king calls this a great evil. It's the ultimate lack of control. You work, you stress, you accumulate, and then you leave it all behind to someone who didn't work for it.
It really highlights the absurdity of hoarding wealth. There's a section in chapter 5 that talks about the sleep of the laborer. I loved that contrast.
Oh, it's brilliant. He says the person who works hard physically sleeps sweetly, whether they have a little food or a lot. But the rich man, his abundance won't let him sleep. It's the paradox of possession. The more you own, the more you have to worry about protecting. You worry about the market crashing, or theft, or mismanagement. The stuff you own ends up owning you.
There's also a poignant observation about bureaucracy and corruption in there. He says, if you see the poor oppressed and justice denied, don't be surprised. Why? Because every official is watched by a higher official, and there are higher ones over them.
It's a scathing critique of red tape. It's the hierarchy of self-protection. Everyone is just trying to please the boss above them. So the person at the very bottom, the poor, gets crushed by the weight of the system. It's tragic, but again, the king says, don't marvel at this. This is how broken human systems work.
So, we have the futility of pleasure, the anxiety of wealth, and the corruption of politics. It sounds incredibly bleak. But then, right in the middle of this, in chapter 3, we get this beautiful rhythmic poem about time. To everything there is a season.
This is the pivot point. It's one of the most famous passages in literature. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to weep, a time to laugh. It's acknowledging that life isn't one note. It's a composition of contrasting seasons.
But he adds a theological twist to it. He says God has set eternity in the human heart, yet we cannot fathom what God is doing from beginning to end. What does that mean? Eternity in the heart?
I think it explains our frustration. We are finite creatures. We live in time. We get old. We die. But we have this infinite longing. We want things to last forever. We want perfect justice. We want permanent love. We have an appetite for the eternal, but we are trapped in a temporary world. That gap between what we desire, eternity, and what we experience, mortality, is where the pain comes from. We are trying to find infinite satisfaction in finite things.
That explains why we are never satisfied. Chapter 6 talks about the tragedy of a man who has everything: wealth, honor, long life, 100 children. But God does not give him the power to enjoy it. A stranger ends up enjoying it instead.
That is the ultimate definition of burnout to me. You have the what, the success, the money, but you've lost the how, the capacity for joy. He says a stillborn child is better off than that man. That is a shocking statement, but it emphasizes that the quality of your experience matters more than the quantity of your years or your dollars. If your soul is empty, a full bank account is just a mockery.
So, let's talk about the solution. Because surprisingly, this isn't a suicide note. The king does offer a way to live within this vapor. He keeps coming back to this refrain: there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and make his soul enjoy good in his labor.
It sounds so simple, almost underwhelming, right? After all this philosophical searching, the answer is enjoy your lunch, but it's actually profound. He's saying stop looking for the ultimate meaning of life in your career achievements or your bank balance. You won't find it there. Those are vapors.
So, the meaning is found in the immediate?
Exactly. It's accepting that we are not in control. We can't control the future. We can't control who inherits our wealth. We can't control the seasons. So the only rational response is to receive the present moment as a gift. When you eat a meal, taste it. When you are with your friends, be with them. When you do good work, find satisfaction in the doing of it, not just the result.
It reminds me of chapter 4, where he talks about companionship. He says, 2 are better than 1. If one falls, the other can pick him up. But woe to the one who is alone.
Yes, he contrasts the lonely workaholic who has no family yet never stops working with the strength of community. He calls it a threefold cord that isn't quickly broken. The antidote to the vanity of competition and envy is connection. We often work hard because we envy our neighbors. We want to beat them. But the text suggests we should stop competing and start connecting. Relationships are one of the few things that make the vapor bearable.
It's a shift from striving to receiving. There's a verse that says, better is a handful with quietness than 2 handfuls with labor and striving after wind.
That's the formula for sanity right there. We are conditioned to always want the 2 handfuls. More, but the cost of the second handful is often our peace of mind. He's asking, is the extra stress worth the extra stuff? Usually the answer is no. A quiet life with enough is better than a frantic life with abundance.
You know, there's a warning in chapter 5 about how we approach the divine too. God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few.
That's a check on our ego. We love to talk. We love to explain ourselves, to make vows, to promise things we can't deliver. He's saying, shut up and listen. Recognize your smallness. There is a freedom in realizing you are not the CEO of the universe. You are a creature. Your job isn't to figure it all out. Your job is to fear God and enjoy the portion you've been given.
It's interesting how fear of God in this context doesn't seem to mean being terrified, but rather having a right perspective on reality.
Precisely. It's awe. It's recognizing that there is a judge, there is a creator, and there is a time for everything. When you realize that justice is ultimately in God's hands, as he mentions in chapter 3, It frees you from the burden of trying to fix everything yourself. You can just do your part, do good, and leave the rest.
So, as we wrap up this first half of the ancient wisdom, it seems the message is a paradox. Nothing matters in the way we think it matters, as a permanent monument to our greatness. But because of that, everything matters in a smaller, humbler way.
That's the perfect summary. If you try to grasp the world, it's smoke. It will slip through your fingers and you'll die frustrated. But if you open your hand and just receive the day, the sunshine, the sandwich, the conversation, the work itself, then you find joy. The joy isn't in the destination, because the destination is the grave. The joy is strictly in the journey.
It's a sobering but strangely liberating thought. We don't have to save the world or build a legacy that lasts 500 years. We just have to be faithful with the season we are in.
Right, stop chasing the wind. You'll never catch it. Just turn your face into it and feel the breeze. That's enough.
Just feel the breeze. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. For everyone listening, maybe take a look at your 2 handfuls of labor this week and ask if you might be better off with just 1 handful and a little more quietness. Thanks for diving into the deep end with us today.
Pleasure to be here.
We'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, enjoy your portion.
If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.